Priscilla Gaines was born in Boone County, Kentucky, when the area was considered the western frontier. The town was named for Abner Gaines, a wealthy Virginian who established a stagecoach stop and inn on the Lexington-Covington Pike in an area soon called Gaines Crossroads. Priscilla's mother was among the enslaved people Gaines brought from Virginia. Kentucky's frontier life was not easy, particularly for enslaved people who faced the same challenges as all pioneers, compounded by longer hours and harder work. Priscilla's life began in bondage, and for enslaved children, survival meant learning hard lessons early. As the Gaines family grew, their bondsmen were often passed between them. Sometime in the years before his 1839 death, Abner either sold or gave Priscilla to his son, John Pollard Gaines. As an enslaved mother, Priscilla was left powerless in preventing harm brought upon herself and her children. To the slaveholders, labor came before all else. This often forced enslaved mothers to put the nurture and protection of their own children last. Priscilla's husband, Duke, was also held by the Gaines family. When her daughter came in 1834, Priscilla named her for her own mother, Margaret, but the baby was called Peggy by family. Historical records indicate Margaret had mixed racial heritage, so it was likely that Duke was not her biological father. Like most enslaved men, Duke was not afforded the natural role of family protector. Priscilla's proximity to Margaret, while both worked in the house, gave her more opportunity to protect and guide her daughter. Attaining freedom, a goal shared by all living in bondage, was likely a lesson Priscilla passed on to Margaret through her parenting. A sudden shift occurred in their lives when John P. Gaines accepted the position of governor of the Oregon Territory in 1849. When John sold his enslaved people and his farm, Maplewood, to his younger brother Archibald K. Gaines, Margaret was about 16 and pregnant with her first child. Her husband, Robert Garner, and his parents, Simon and Mary Garner, were enslaved by James Marshall on a neighboring farm. After Archibald Gaines took the role as slaveholder at Maplewood, there are hints that life grew considerably more stressful, including a fire that burned the home to the ground and incidents involving two other enslaved women, Hannah and Charlotte. By 1856, Margaret was pregnant with her fifth child. It was apparent that several of her children were not Robert's. They were children of white fathers. Enslaved women were often victims of assault, and it's not hard to imagine Priscilla provided her daughter with both comfort and advice. Priscilla had once considered escape. Soon Margaret would as well. On a frigid night near the end of January 1856, Margaret, Robert, their 4 children, and his parents headed north towards the Ohio River in one of Marshall's wagons. After fleeing nearly 20 miles to Covington, a town on the banks of the river, the group abandoned the wagon and crossed the frozen river on foot. On the opposite bank, they made their way to the home of Margaret's cousin, Elijah Kite, a freedman who was once enslaved in Boone County. They would rest there, then continue toward freedom. Archibald and several deputy marshals were in pursuit and soon surrounded the cabin. An intense fight followed. As the men forced their way in, Margaret made the desperate decision that her children would not be returned to enslavement alive. She cut the throat of her 2-year-old daughter, Mary, killing her. She attempted to take the lives of the other 3 children, but her captors intervened. the freedom seekers were arrested and taken into custody. Abolitionist lawyer John Joliffe saw an opportunity to circumvent the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850, which all but ensured the group's return to enslavement. He offered to represent them and wanted to seek a murder indictment for Mary's death. This would shift the focus from their fugitive status and possibly keep them on free soil until they could gain freedom. The trial drew attention from across the country and overseas. For supporters of slavery, Margaret's actions were interpreted as barbaric. For abolitionists, slavery's cruelty was laid bare for public view. Margaret was living proof of the lengths to which an enslaved mother would go to spare her children the same fate she had suffered.
Slavery affected Margaret Garner's image of herself as a mother, and it also damaged her bonds with her own children, denying her the right to protect them, to educate them, even her maternal authority over them. Margaret Garner's bonds with her children were so strong that she believed in her mind that her authority as a mother was greater than that of her owners, and she struggled with gains in that cabin, the kite cabin, over maternal or parental authority. So it was a really interesting exchange. When asked why she killed her child, she proclaimed, quote, "It was my own, given me of God to do the best a mother could on its own behalf. I've done the best I could. I would have done more and better for the rest. I knew it was better for them to go home to God than back to slavery. I did the best I could."
The notoriety of Margaret Garner's case did not save the group from enslavement. They were ultimately returned to Kentucky, then sold to the Deep South. Margaret Garner was gone, but her impact was lasting. She came to embody the horrors of enslavement and a mother's choice. While the trial captured the attention of a nation, Margaret's mother, Priscilla, was among 4 enslaved people who successfully escaped Maplewood just days following Margaret's capture. In making this choice, she summoned the same courage needed to escape as she had inspired in her child. Priscilla taught her daughter that freedom from enslavement was the only choice. Margaret learned well, offering her own children the only protection she could in the moment. Priscilla's legacy was one of strength and resistance and was amplified by a daughter whose story is still being told.